Let's take a look at some of the free agent defensive tackles that are set to hit the market. This from Spot Track. You mentioned Fletcher Cox, Hargrave, Tomlinson. You see Taven Bryan in there, Sheldon Rankins, Deron Payne, Nade, who we'll see this coming up this weekend playing. Jerry Tillery's a game. From that list, do you think there's a couple of those that the Browns, because that list covers a wide range of what their market value will be. Do you think the Browns end up with a couple of those guys?
It depends how you truly want to do it. Do you want to spend the money that a Deron Payne would be asking for? And again, whether or not he gets out of Washington without being tagged, I'm not sure. But do you want to commit $13, $14 million to one player? Or do you go with other couple options? Maybe you split that money in half and you go to two players. The Eagles guys, very, very intriguing. But the question is going to be, where does this Eagles run end this year? Yes, they have players on the interior. They spent a first-round pick on the interior last year. So maybe you move on of one of two of Hargrave or Fletcher Cox, which gives the Browns an opportunity to get a veteran in here and basically set the tone, set the mood of what the expectation is for this room going forward. Tomlinson, nice player on the interior, of course, as well. Jerry Tillery, big body. Taven Bryan, who actually, I think was by far probably the Browns' best defensive tackle as far as consistency this year. I think he fits a Jim Schwartz defense. Maybe not as a starting defensive lineman that's going to play a lot in 1st and 10, but you got pretty good pass rush. You got pretty good activity out of Taven Bryan in obvious pass rushing situations. For me, I think, and there was some rumblings that the Browns were invested in trying to maybe get Deron Payne out of Washington last year around the trade deadline. We'll see the way it works out. If you're Washington, even still, even if you don't know if there's a commitment there long term, because maybe it screws up their finances, you tag them, you get something for them, so you can move on and still continue to keep the flow that you have with your team. There's some very, very impressive names on that list, and the Browns cannot continue to do this under this Andrew Berry regime. Year in, year out, they have spent 3rd round, 4th round, day 3 picks on defensive tackle. You need a proven commodity. You just can't. And you did a disservice if you brought in Jim Schwartz and say, we'll take somebody at 104. We'll take somebody at 172. You can't do that. You brought this man here, and I guarantee you there were, promises about how you were going to address one of the biggest needs on this defense. And I doubt they boldface lied to the guy, because I doubt Jim Schwartz would have committed to it. He wants at least one, top-notch veteran that he can count on. And of the names you just rattled off, I definitely think one of them will be here. Most interesting one for me would maybe be Fletcher Cox. But again, we got to see the way this Eagles, season ends. If it does end up either in the Super Bowl or winning the Super Bowl, then there's always the temptation for anybody who's involved to stick around for a little bit. But there's no question. There's, as far as anything, what they're looking at right now, blinders on. It's got to be that defensive tackle list.